How's it going, Kryptonians? Welcome back to a brand new Superman and Lois Season 2 video, of which is a video I probably should have done a while ago, but as we're somewhat getting closer to Season 2 now, which if you're not aware already, it is airing January 11th, 2022, so kinda not that far away, it is time to talk about the Season 2 top wants and top desires from not only myself, but also the desires of what a lot of fans have been voicing and what they really want to see explored in next season. I'll add a few options for a couple of things since the fans are split on a bit of a crossroad on where some of the topics that we'll discuss and where they can go, such as villains, characters, storylines, and much more. Just to mention as well, in some of these ideas, I will be implementing the showrunner's opinion, Todd Helbing, on some of the things we'll discuss as well. These are like a few months old, but I haven't discussed it on the channel and they fit perfectly into this video, so maybe you haven't heard those before and it'll be nice to know the insight of what we can perhaps expect from Season 2. But let's start right at the beginning. And to start off with, we need to address a juicy one which fans have been talking about for quite a while, and that is Jonathan Kent. So should he remain the same or no? Like in Season 2, should he be superpowered or should he remain, not necessarily getting there just yet, or maybe for some fans, not at all? Now some fans do like the idea of him being like his mother's son, if you will, the powerless yet still very relevant character in the family, in that you don't have to be superpowered to be important. And it does somewhat poetically fit the dynamic, Jordan, super son, as with super father, and Lois and Jonathan doing what they do. Now both, this is the interesting thing and why I was really interested in making this video, it explores the options. Both appealed to me. But I can't lie, like if I said that I wouldn't want to see Jonathan Kent come into his powers as well. So I'm going to leave that one to you. Like, what do you guys want? I think if I had to place my money, it would be powers at some point along the way, but that could also be another slow burner. But ultimately, what do you want? And the next big want for Season 2, and interestingly enough, this isn't so much from me, this is from the large part of the fandom, of which I do completely understand, and that is the larger connections to the Arrowverse world. Now, personally, as I just said, I'm not die-hard about this, but I can totally see why it somewhat alienates fans who really seek this, because there has been many remarks from those fans saying, why not even mention Kara once? I mean, to play devil's advocate, we have literally had Diggle from Arrow enter the show, but yeah, you can totally see why some fans are bothered by Superman's cousin not even being mentioned, and possibly some larger aspects to the Arrowverse world. Now, once again, this is why I've made this video. There's kind of split opinions on this, because some really don't want this kind of caliber of show to that of what we're used to with CW quality, with Superman obviously somewhat differentiating itself from that of your former CW shows. They don't really want it to be connected as much. They kind of want to ignore the Arrowverse connection, each to their own, of course, but obviously we can't deny it's in the Arrowverse. So at the end of the day, Arrowverse connections should somewhat few and far between be made, especially someone as important as Clark's cousin. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we do have some insight from Todd Helbing on some of the things we're talking about today. So he said that there's been a lot of talk and questions about how all the shows interact now and are related post-crisis. I think in Season 2, the audience will get a lot more answers about that, which I think, with what we're discussing, that will make those who really want this very happy. So perhaps next season we will get a visit from Kara, who knows? But obviously we kind of do need to consider real life logistics. Would Melissa Benoist be down for this? Now, I'm not saying she wouldn't be down for this. I'm sure she would, but maybe there's scheduling conflicts. Maybe she's just up to something else. There's all kinds of issues like that that could come up with this, but that's when you could at least put a reference, a line saying, oh, Kara told me this last weekend. I'm sure that would suffice for a lot of fans who understand real life, logistics with her actually coming to set and finding the time to do that. Bottom line is that at the end of the day, they clearly know that fans want acknowledgement, and to further avoid this, it would just inflame that situation even more. But as far as other Arrowverse connections, it's not massively important to me. I did hear that Superman was almost in the Flash Armageddon crossover, so it didn't really work out. So considering that is a thing means that they're fully up for Superman from Superman and Lois literally being involved in other Arrowverse shows. So that is a very good sign for all of those seeking those larger Arrowverse connections in future seasons. And considering what Todd Helbing just said with regards to fans will get a lot more answers with regards to that, it seems that it's happening. Now, this next one's a little bit more lengthy compared to the ones we just discussed, but since this show is primarily about this family dynamic, which, you know, at first, if you'll remember before launch, it made a lot of fans doubt the premise of this show. But the cool thing about that when the show released, is that a lot of those fans who had those apprehensions, it subverted those expectations in a good way. And with season 2, Todd Helbing has said and stated that they want to explore a new family dynamic. And that makes sense to me. New season of Superman and Lois, new slight spin on that family dynamic. And how does that happen? Well, Nat, as in Natalie, Lois's daughter, yet not quite her daughter because it's her DNA, but from another universe, if you're still following me there. I'm just going to mention this because I know for a fact there will be people who say something like, you know, some will be concerned that introducing Nat could potentially add for the CW trope of drama, if you will, in this season. But personally, I vouch for Superman and Lois in just terms of faith in their tasteful storytelling, and that this won't be some, oh my god, you know, my daughter is here and family drama, oh, you know, kind of thing. And at the end of the day, it is a very relevant thing to explore. Like, what show did we just watch and all enjoy for those who are watching this video? Superman and Lois Season 1, a family-driven show. So in Season 2, it will be interesting considering that Lois is with the very man who Nat views, who murdered her mother on the other Earth. That, at the end of the day, even if you can differentiate that this isn't that version, is a tough pill to swallow. Not to mention also with the context of Lois's miscarriage in that one episode with her masterful performance that Elizabeth Tulloch gave. It really just makes me look forward to that exploration with this kind of odd opportunity both individual characters have to explore this relationship together, if you know what I mean. Not to mention, you know, this can also go into the relationships that could be forged between Nat and somewhat her siblings in a way, Jonathan and Jordan. I mean, I've got a feeling that she'll not desire to be close with them at first at all, but as the season unfolds, they'll somewhat form a trio superhero team. Like, not truly, by the way, I'm just saying they'll unite together. And I can already see there'll be a few moments in this season where they have to work together in a similar way that Jonathan and Jordan rushed in to save their father from John Henry Irons in that one particular episode. That could translate to a trio thing as well, as I was just mentioning, where it's one of those situations where, and this may be cheesy for some, and I'm not saying they're far along their way of who they will be in like 15 years' time, not at all, but it's one of those situations where maybe all three of them, Jonathan, Jordan, and Nat, run into that kind of center shot of the camera in a, you know, saving way. Maybe Jonathan's got his gun, obviously Jordan, Kryptonian powers, and then Nat, maybe she's borrowed her father's steel suit. Next up is the somewhat military presence slash General Lane, or not General Lane, just Sam Lane now, and how this could echo throughout the season, because obviously that's a big part of season 1 in terms of how much he does to try and keep the radar off Superman, or should I say the Kent family, and not having those two ever linked within the world, which, to be honest, they almost, you know, dropped the ball there in season 1 a few times with the attention going back to Smallville with Superman. So I would like to see Sam Lane, maybe considering he stepped down at the end of last season from the role that he had, get closer to his grandsons and family after that arc he went through. And also, he did somewhat offer a position of trust to John Henry Irons, who was reluctant to commit to anything, but I'm betting he will probably get closer along that path. Whether it's reluctantly, he may eventually step into it. There is no doubt at all that John Henry Irons and Steel will have a presence in season 2, especially with Nat, and he will potentially help Superman out with what he may come up against next season. But at the same time, I don't want too much reliance on Steel, because Superman is Superman at the end of the day, and it almost feels like, you know, with Superman, and if you have, like, Steel as well, just always double-teaming some kind of villain, it's like, well, isn't that a bit too easy? But obviously, this still is yet to be seen. Now, this next one is pretty subjective, but a change in the suit. Now, hold your horses. I really like this suit, the Superman suit on Tyler Hoechlin. However, I might make a couple of changes, And as much as I feel like the feedback for this suit has been very positive from the fandom, especially considering the previous Superman suit that Tyler had, well, there is definitely feedback. And personally for me, I want a bigger logo. I feel like the suit looks badass in other ways, but that little logo he has is just a bit too small. I feel like it could be a bit more reminiscent of the size of the Man of Steel logo. Not only that, I would prefer it if the logo kind of extrudes a bit more. You know, it's more pronounced, if you will, rather than that of it coming across as though it's just a part of like the baseline of the suit. For example, this logo on this fabric right now that's been printed on. Now, to be clear, I'm not after a kind of chunky, somewhat Brandon Routh emblem, but just something that comes across a bit more, well, protruding and extruding out of the suit. Next up is just simply more training for Jordan. This is kind of an obvious one, but I would like to see not just him coping with his powers, which was a lot of season 1, and I think, you know, as potentially comes into more powers. I know he flew when he was kind of possessed, but maybe he doesn't know how to do that kind of in a Smallville way with Tom Welling's Clark. Didn't really know how to fly until the very, very end. But this season, instead of coping with the new powers and, you know, being like that all the time, which I completely understand, maybe this year we can hone those powers. That would be awesome. Father and son time. It could even add for some kind of moments where Jonathan is getting a bit, I don't know if the right word is envious. It's definitely not jealous, but could you imagine seeing your brother go through getting the powers and then like evolving them with his father, honing them, learning how to use them, and having fun? That would be kind of, it would add that layer where I felt sorry for Jonathan repeatedly last season. So yeah, looking forward to moments like that. Now this one is a very good example for this video in terms of Top Fan Wants and the kind of variety of what you can get into there, because obviously everyone is going to be all over the place in terms of some saying Braniac, some will say Lobo, some will be like, somehow bring Zod back, even though, you know, I'm telling you that probably not going to do Zod. Same with John Crye's Lex Luthor. Todd Helbing basically shut that down in terms of like, that's kind of a big, big villain, and, you know, you want to somewhat work up to that. And I'm not going to lie, personally, I'm very subjective to me, in my opinion. I would want a recast for Lex. I know loads of people love John Crye's Lex Luthor from Supergirl, but when and if we do get to that eventually, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, let's get back onto the point. Who will be the antagonist of next season? And luckily, Todd Helbing did give some insight to this, very vaguely, but some that I completely agree with. He said that from the earliest days that Greg Berlanti and I talked about this show, the question was always, okay, if we're gonna do this, how are we going to make it different? And if you go through any of the movies, I think the natural tendency is you have to have somebody as strong and powerful as Superman, or he would never lose. The story engine that we have, though, and what's really important, is the family of it. So once you become a father, once Superman became a father, he has a weakness that he never had before. His thoughts about Lois, about the boys. That family aspect makes him weaker in a lot of ways because he loves more, but it also makes him a better hero because he has something to fight for. It doesn't have to be somebody that can punch as hard as Superman. I think of the end of episode 14, when he came back and he had to tell his wife that he can't find Jordan. There's a look on Tyler's face like he doesn't know what to do. Those are the situations we want to put Superman in, because I think to all of us, writers, actors, producers, that's the most important and what really works on our show. And I do agree with that completely. And that's not to say that obviously there's not going to be a main threat, but more of a threat that doesn't have to be in your face, as I mentioned, as Braniac, but like something that can still be very threatening, but also pertain to, for example, Todd Helbing laid it out right there. That scene in episode 14 is very unique and something that I truly feel that Superman and Lois has achieved very, very well. And I don't want to go as far as saying an unprecedented way, but it felt like it. Like, as he said, usually it's like somebody who can punch as hard as Superman. Now, we've got something new to play with. For example, maybe introducing more of a threat that pertains to the public image of Superman, or, you know, to do with more of the government, or, you know, somebody like Captain Atom, a character who was framed for a crime he didn't commit, sentenced to death, but avoided his execution, and he kind of participated in a military experiment that made him the character of who he is. And in this iteration, as I just aforementioned, it could be this somewhat government storyline storyline that would be really cool to see next season tackle, in terms of where we've had peeks and glimpses last season of Superman's disdain, with him discovering the government projects such as 7734. Imagine if he learns like the true origins of this public, somewhat government appointed hero. Even though General Lane has stepped down, this could go into a far deeper kind of government, rabbit hole. They could do strokes of Marvel's US agent in a way. And that kind of storyline would get complicated and messy very, very fast, especially if, to the perception of the world, you have Superman fighting somebody who they perceive as well as another good guy. Now, outside some of those more beefier things like main villain, there are some other little cool subplots that fans, and me as well, would like to see tackled that are callbacks to season 1, in terms of a little subplot maybe showing Clark's care for Tag. If you remember, the kid affected with XK, who was kind of like, all the powers were coming in at once, his hands were like vibrating, or his whole body, and he ended up in that superhero school, and it didn't end up so well the first time, so that he escaped, but the second time he was taken away, Superman was extremely adamant. Like, he was pissed off with the lack of care and more prison-like presentation it had for Tag, compared to that of a place for where they're actually trying to look after him. In so much that he said he would keep a bloody close watch on him this time, in terms of his care, making sure that nothing dodgy would be happening. And he basically promised him. Now, this provided for a very nice Superman moment in season 1. It was such a quick scene when he was being carted away, but it's just like the way Tyler kind of portrayed that kind of care that Superman gave, that it would be really nice to see even a few scenes of Clark following up on this in season 2 and just kind of address, those who might have been affected by the XK. Up next is the Smallville Gazette and Lois Lane's reporting. Now, I'm a huge fan of Elizabeth Tulloch and what she's done with Lois Lane in season 1, and unlike The Flash, which thank God, by the way, because we're talking about Lois Lane here, we got a lot of true character representation for her journalistic pursuit throughout the episodes of season 1. Now, we know that Chrissy, the original owner of the Smallville Gazette, has been bumped up to a series regular for season 2. If I remember correctly, Lois Lane now owns that Smallville Gazette, so with the Gazette ramping up next season, Lois will likely be really making a name out of the outlet from Smallville, and I just honestly want more of what they gave us in season 1. Just don't drop the ball. And it's very important with what they did well in season 1 and how we had a Superman-esque villain, but also Lois had her own kind of adversary in Morgan Edge as well, and other things bleeding out of all of the issues that arose with that storyline that she was tackling. So more of the same, honestly. Now, this next one I thought would happen in season 1, and it's still got a very strong possibility of happening, but with Jor-El gone, thanks to frickin' Morgan Edge crushing the crystal, I speculated, among with many other fans, that perhaps Superman's mother, Lara, could be implemented into the Fortress of Solitude, considering the fact that we were even able to have her actually, bond with Clark, like almost kind of in the flesh last season. So this is still a possibility, and it would just give such a great opportunity. And I don't feel like this has been done before too much, for the show to explore Superman's relationship with his mother in a consistent way that usually is portrayed with Jor-El. So after having been getting to know Jor-El his whole life, being mentored by him, the next chapter could be consulting Lara. And it's kind of fitting, the next chapter of his life is a family life, and now he's got his mother kind of counseling him in that way. Which I just think, bottom line, would be a really awesome, innovative take. But we're gonna have to wait and see. Now, lastly, for this video at least, I think I would like to see more flashbacks, but not just for the sake of it. In season 1, we got some great flashbacks to the time of where Superman first met Lois, he saved her, or when he was on the news. Todd Helbing has said, though, that, we're not just gonna make this show into Lost. We'll certainly have flashbacks if it's gonna help tell the story and help the audience understand where a character is and where they came from, so it really lands emotionally. Then yeah, we'll do it. And that's probably, what he says there makes sense for the new villain or whatever, getting some context into their past. But I think it would still be cool to show early Superman, but that might just come across more fan servicey than serving the plot. But it might not if it pertains to that episode when there's a scene like, do you remember that time when we faced a similar situation, and then flashback to early Superman? That would be relevant. As Todd Helbing said, if it is relevant, they will do it. So that is it for this video, and I say this video because I feel like the ideas can keep coming in terms of as we lead up to season 2, as to what we want to see, where they could go in like a variety of ways. So let me know down in the comments below what you feel about my thoughts and some of the kind of popular fan desires and wants for next season. Also, let me know if you want to see another video just like this in general. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, especially if you got this far, maybe even leave the hashtag down in the comments below to prove you got this far. Hashtag Son of Krypton. You know, I mean, all of you should recognize that quote. Other than that, really would appreciate a like on this video. As always, in the top pinned comment are links to my social media, Discord server where you can talk about Superman and Lois with me. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you fellow Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.